Strategic backing, what's going on, guys? I got a live that is scheduled for 3:15, where we're going to talk about the Stephen Stearns emails part 2, and it just came to my attention that we had a political assassination that occurred in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and unfortunately, this is just horrible. Two Democratic lawmakers, Melissa Hortman and Senator John Hoffman, were shot and killed. Apparently, the assailant actually had on a very authentic looking police uniform. This person was not a police officer, but they impersonated a police officer. Not only did they have a full police uniform, replica police uniform on, but they also had a car that was outfitted to look absolutely identical to the local police agency of which this person was pretending to be a part of as one of their squad cars. So apparently this individual went to the residence of these two politicians and he fit the bill like he was law enforcement. They opened their door. I don't know if they allowed him into the house or they just opened the door and was talking to him, and then he proceeded to shoot them. And my understanding is that he shot two other lawmakers who are now currently in critical condition, and they are getting the help that they need right now, and it looks like they might pull through, and we pray that they will. But this is unacceptable. I don't even have all the information. I want to just play a little bit to see what's going on here. I don't know if the suspect is alive or if they're dead, but let's listen to this press conference real quick, and then we'll go into our scheduled live when we're done here. But I have to bring this to your attention. This is true crime. This is important. This is about our nation. We cannot be so divided where we're using violence to let our voices be heard. That is never the solution. It is absolutely never the solution. And whether it is extremist right violence or extremist left violence, we need to handle it the same. We need to squash it. We need to punish these folks. We need to send them to prison. We need to let it be known that we will not tolerate violence as a form of political speech. Let's pray for these two people who dedicated their life to service. Whether you agree with their political ideology or not means nothing. They are American heroes for deciding to dedicate their life to service, and now they are senselessly gone for no reason, because politics is never a reason to inflict violence on another human being. Let's listen to this.
In a moment, you'll hear from law enforcement officials who will share with you what they can as up-to-minute update on the situation here in Minnesota. You're going to be joined by Commissioner Bob Jacobson, BCA Superintendent Drew Evans, State Patrol Colonel Christina Bogoyevich, Champlain Park Police Chief Snyder, and Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley, as well as the Mayor of Brooklyn Park. We're here today because an unspeakable tragedy has unfolded in Minnesota. My good friend and colleague, Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband Mark were shot and killed early this morning in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Our state lost a great leader, and I lost a dearest of friends. Speaker Hortman was someone who served the people of Minnesota with grace, compassion, humor, and a sense of service. She was a formidable public servant, a fixture and a giant in Minnesota. She woke up every day determined to make this state a better place. She is irreplaceable, and we've been missed by so many. Minnesota's thoughts and prayers are with her family, her loved ones, her children, and her parents. My prayers also go out to State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, who were each shot multiple times. The Hoffmans are out of surgery at this time and receiving care, and we are cautiously optimistic they will survive this assassination attempt. This was an act of targeted political violence. Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy. We don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. In the state of Minnesota, and as recently as last week, in the most closely divided state legislature in the country, we sat down, we worked things out, we debated, we shook hands and compromised, and we served the state of Minnesota together. We proved that it's possible, even in these politically charged times, to find compromise and adhere to the principles of democracy and civil discourse. We must all, Minnesota and across the country, stand against all forms of political violence. At this precipice moment we're on, this tragic act here in Minnesota should serve as a reminder to all of us. The democracy and the debates in the halls of Congress, in state houses, in school boards, is a way to settle our differences peacefully and move society to a better place. We're collaborating with all local, state, and federal agencies on a full investigation. We're committed to keeping Minnesotans informed as the situation continues. I assure you that those responsible for this will be held accountable, and each and every one of us are committed to making sure that a tragedy like this never repeats itself in Minnesota or across this country. I'd now like to turn it over to my public safety team to fill you in on the specifics of this ongoing investigation.
All right, so we just heard from Tim Walsh, who is the governor of Minnesota and also the former vice presidential candidate for 2024. 2025. And so I just want to switch over to an article because, like I told you guys, I just want to give you guys some basic information, but I do have another live coming up. I just want to get straight to the facts of what happened. All right, because first of all, beautiful remarks from Tim Walsh, and my prayers go out to him and his state. Period. All right. Very sad stuff. So, police first received a call at around 2 a.m. local time on Saturday morning explaining that Mr. Hoffman and his wife had been shot. Police officers were then proactively checking on Ms. Hortman and had gone to visit her home when a second call came in at around 3:35 a.m. Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley said that when officers arrived to the Hortman home, they noticed a vehicle with emergency lights, which appeared to be a police officer, at the door. When all officers confronted him, he immediately fired at the officers, who exchanged gunfire, and the suspect immediately retreated back into the home. The police chief explained, "This was not a real police officer. This was a person who was clearly impersonating a police officer, wearing the trust of this badge to manipulate their way into the home," Bruley added. A major manhunt is now underway for the suspect, who managed to escape on foot from the scene, abandoning a vehicle in which officers found a manifesto listing other legislatures and officials, law enforcement officials told a news conference. So this guy is still at large. I didn't even know that, because this is just all brand new for me. This guy is still at large, ladies and gentlemen. Somehow he was able to get away from those officers that responded, and now he's still at large. This guy is a danger. This is like all hands on deck, APB out for this dude. So President Donald Trump said that he had been briefed on the terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota, which appears to be a targeted attack against state lawmakers. Such horrific violence will not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place, he said in a statement. U.S. authorities asked residents of 2 Minneapolis suburbs to stay indoors as they search for the suspect gunman and warned people not to answer the door to police unless they were 2 officers together. This is straight up terrorism, guys. That people now are afraid of police officers, rightfully so, unless you see them in pairs. Do not answer your door in Minnesota unless you see 2 officers together. Wow. To receive the best stories in your inbox, blah, blah, blah. This is advertisement. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. This is crazy. Let me go ahead and fast forward to see just what this guy has to say real quick.
Criminal apprehension. I want to start by just expressing our deepest sympathies to the communities, the family, the friends, and everybody that cared about the individuals that were gunned down today. When we have individuals like this in our political leadership, they're not only political leaders, but they're members of the community, well-known members of the community, that the tragedy in a situation like this is not only for them, their friends and families, but us collectively, the communities they represent, us as a state of Minnesota as a whole. About 2 a.m. this morning, there was an original call in the city of Champlin where there was an individual that had shot Senator Hoffman and his wife. Police responded to that location. They were dealing with that and working through that process overnight. And then later on, at approximately 3:35, another call came in when it was officers proactively checking because they knew of the incident that occurred, and they were going to check on Speaker Hortman at that time, at which time Brooklyn Park police officers encountered the individual who immediately fired at them, and they exchanged gunfire, and then the individual was able to escape during that exchange of gunfire. At the residence in Champlin, there was life-saving measures that were provided there. Both individuals were transported, as was previously noted, and they both received surgeries for their injuries at the hospital, and their conditions are at this time, both those individuals, Senator Hoffman and his wife, are both alive at this time, but they suffered gunshot wounds and are obviously in a difficult situation, but we're cautiously optimistic that they will continue to improve. At this time, it is a very active scene still, as you've seen. The Brooklyn Park Police Department, along with other members, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, State Patrol, FBI, BC, and many others are actively engaged in a manhunt for the individual that we believe is responsible for this.
All right, so there you have it. There's still a manhunt for this person. There's no description that they've given so far. This is a time for us to come together, ladies and gentlemen. We need to rise up above politics. We need to understand that we're all Americans at the end of the day. We have to find this guy. So please, all of my viewers who may be out in that Minnesota, Minneapolis area, whatever, please keep your eyes peeled. If you see a police officer by himself on foot walking with no police car in sight, you need to call the authorities and give them a description. If a police officer knocks on your door, this is just temporary, guys. It's not a forever thing. This is just for right now till we find this guy. If a police officer knocks on your door by himself, you need to not open the door. You need to contact your local authorities. You need to make sure that they understand who he is with a description, etc. If you live in that area and you have a Ring camera, you have video surveillance, make sure that you contact your local law enforcement so that they can make and have that video surveillance available. If this guy knocks on your door and you don't answer and you have a Ring camera and he walks away and he's by himself, send that photo to your local police department. They will know immediately whether he is a member of that department, and if it's not him, or rather if he's not a member, they can now know that this guy might be the subject or something that they're looking for. So guys, we need to find this guy. We need to get him off the streets, and hopefully we get him alive so that he could face that sweet, sweet, sweet American justice, because this is a federal crime that this guy did. Is terrorism. And we have a very, very beautiful place in America for terrorists. Beautiful place. And it's the Supermax in Florence, Colorado, where you don't see sunlight for the rest of your life. That is what this man deserves, not death. He deserves to be in the Supermax and never see sunlight until the end of his days. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.